As calls for justice continue days after the murder of Joshua Brown, social media posts and speculation about the Dallas man's mysterious death are increasing.
There's been speculation and rumors that have been shared by community leaders claiming that Mr. Brown's death was related to the Amber Guyger trial and somehow the Dallas Police Department was responsible. I assure you that is simply not true.
Joshua Brown was no stranger to police, convicted of crimes in at least 5 cities across Texas.
But I know this is upsetting for a lot of people because there's this impression that we're trying to slander him and his name, and there he is on the witness stand, and he's the victim of a killing. That's not what we're trying to do. I just want to clarify.
Joshua Brown was no stranger to police, convicted of crimes in at least 5 cities across Texas. He was arrested for drug possession, evading arrest, theft, and having an illegal firearm. WFAA obtained court documents and a letter Brown wrote to a judge in Travis County in 2017. He asked to be released early after being arrested for drugs. He says, "I am praying when that date comes and I am discharged, that I can put the whole series of events behind me and start off on a clean path." But records show he continued a life of crime. Last year, he was shot at a strip club. A man with Brown was shot and killed, but police believe he was the target. Attorney Lee Merritt represents Brown's family and now admits Brown was hesitant to testify in the Amber Guyger trial, not because of that case, but because people were after him.
He led people to believe that he had left Dallas. And so testifying in the trial says, no, I'm here. And it exposes him to danger. And he feared for his life testifying in this case, not because of the involvement of Amber Guyger, but because someone shot him less than a year ago.
Police say over the weekend, Brown was killed during a drug deal. They say 3 men were robbing him of drugs. They say Brown pulled a weapon first and shot one of the suspects. And then another man shot Brown twice, killing him. Merritt now admits there is enough evidence supporting that, but says people won't believe it because he says DPD lacks credibility after the Guyger trial.
But that evidence will always be undermined by the DPD implication in this case.
WFAA obtained the search warrant of Brown's apartment, which shows not only was there 12 pounds of pot and $4 grand in cash, there were digital scales to weigh drugs. Multiple sources and even some of his acquaintances say Brown was a known drug dealer moving large quantities of drugs, and that's what got him in trouble. In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
For our first story, I wanted to kind of explain why we're doing this story. So a lot of you maybe clicked on this because you saw Joshua Brown's name in the headline. He is the neighbor of Botham Jean, who testified in the Amber Guyger trial. He was murdered on Friday. He was shot and killed in front of his apartment in Dallas. And there were so many questions about what happened, because initially there was a tweet from the family's lawyer that he'd been shot in the head and the mouth. And a lot of folks thought it seemed too much of a coincidence that this has happened. You guys demanded answers. And so the reporters at our sister station in Dallas really worked to get those and to provide some context. And that involved, yes, talking to police, and it involved looking through Brown's criminal history. Because police say his death was the result of a drug deal gone bad, that he was shot when 3 men tried to rob him to get drugs. And there's a history with Brown of criminal acts. He had been arrested in 5 different states, and so we can show some of that video now for you. But I know this is upsetting for a lot of people because there's this impression that we're trying to slander him and his name, and there he is on the witness stand, and he's the victim of a killing. That's not what we're trying to do. I just want to clarify. You guys demanded answers about what happened, how it happened, and so we've tried to get those answers for you. And you can read up on the investigation from our sister station at WFAA. Arkisha asks, what does his criminal record have to do with this? We normally wait until the end to go through comments, but I think this is an important conversation to have in real time as we can. It's important because police say his record is indicative of his death, if that makes sense. They say he was killed in a drug deal. They say they found many pounds of 12 pounds of marijuana and $4,000 in cash in his apartment. They say they found digital scales used to weigh drugs in there as well. They're trying to clarify that this wasn't a conspiracy. It wasn't an assassination, as the family's lawyer initially suggested when he said that Brown was shot in the head and the mouth. He was actually shot in the lower part of his body. He shot a man before he died. That man survived, however. So again, read up in the report that our sister station and the team up there in Dallas has put together. This is something you guys are so very interested in, and I understand your concerns, but this was part of the discovery process. And sometimes when you're looking for answers, you don't necessarily find what you were looking for, but maybe not what you were hoping for, I guess is how I'll leave that. And again, I'll push you to WFAA and the link that we've shared in the caption up above.
That has some folks like DeSoto pastor Marcus D. King concerned.
Everyone wants to be a part of what story is taking place. And many times we share information that is totally inaccurate.
King posted a message on Facebook urging folks to be patient as information about this case unfolds. We know Brown was shot multiple times outside the Altera Apartments in Dallas's medical district. Over the weekend, civil rights attorney Lee Merritt, who is now working with the Brown family, tweeted incorrect information saying Brown was shot in his mouth and chest. That post was retweeted more than 77,000 times. Merritt later scaled back his post, saying he was told by the immediate family that the medical examiner said mouth and chest. He claimed he was initially told the back. Merritt added another witness claimed it was the buttocks inside. That retraction was only retweeted less than 600 times. After much social media attention, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins chimed in, saying Mr. Brown was not shot in the mouth or head, but was shot multiple times. Pastor King says unconfirmed or conflicting information can at times be damaging to the people and to the cases.
Let's pause. Let's let the truth kind of develop a little bit, because it can cause hysteria and unnecessary emotions can take place.
We've learned Joshua Brown was a father of 3 young children. His former girlfriend, Shantia Victor, is on social media saying we need answers and we need justice. The NAACP Legal Fund is also weighing in. Its leaders are calling for an immediate independent investigation of the murder of Joshua Brown. In Dallas, I'm Damon Fernandez.
Okay, so I know this is a tough day to go through the comments and questions, but I think it's important because that's what these updates are about. They're about having a dialogue and being able to respond to some of your questions and concerns. Brandon, I know, said that the comments have been flooded by folks who are really upset that we're doing this story about Joshua Brown. And I kind of tried to explain it. I know some of you pointed out that I've been stumbling over my words. I certainly do. This isn't scripted. So these are just the words that are coming out as they're coming to mind. And I wanted you guys to understand why we're doing it, why WFAA is doing it. If we didn't, you guys would be just as upset. If we never followed up on this story, there would be a lot of comments and questions and concerns as well. So I think this is one of those situations where we're darned if you do, darned if you don't. I know the results of asking these questions doesn't make a lot of people happy. And I understand why, to be sure. This is a man who was killed. He had his life taken away. And it happened so soon after the Amber Guyger trial, after a Dallas police officer was found guilty and convicted of murdering a man, her neighbor, Joshua Brown's neighbor as well. However, because of those circumstances, that's why you guys demanded answers about how he was killed, about the circumstances in which he was killed, about his history, whether there was any. That's why the story is done. So I don't know if that answers some of your questions or if there's anything else, Brandon, that you've seen that maybe I can answer.
Not really. People are fired up over this. We have a lot of people talking about it. And again, we understand why this is such a divisive issue. Most people are just, talking about how it just seems very convenient, which we definitely understand that it does seem very convenient.
Absolutely, and that's why we started looking into it in the first place. I mean, the conviction happens, and a few days later, this guy who provided key testimony in the Guyger case, he was Botham Jean's neighbor. He said he heard the exchange between Guyger and Jean, played a vital role in this trial, and then a couple days after the conviction, after the sentencing, he's shot and killed in front of his apartment. For sure, that generates so many questions.
Yeah, a newer question here. Linda's asking why they would go to Texas to buy marijuana when there's clearly marijuana available in Louisiana. So that's another issue that people are looking into, is why they would even cross the border to do this.
That is an excellent question. We know that I-35, I-10, they're big corridors for drug trafficking. That may not be the answer at all. Dallas, please tell us, he had pounds of marijuana in his apartment as well as cash. So it's hard to say, but that's another one the team at WFAA can start looking into if you really want the answers. Anything else? Nothing Astros weather. This is kind of dominating everything. I know. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I appreciate asking your comments or asking your questions, posing those to us, and demanding responsibility and action, because that is very important. That's why we started looking into this in the first place. So